DreAllDay.com.
Check 1, 2. You are now tuned in to the show where you learn, the only show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you have expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, there's more. Yes, there's more. You get a huge dose of personal initiative. This is that go-getter energy that any of us can utilize to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. We put all this together into one bundle, one mindset, one method, one philosophy. There is a book by the same name in this show and the masterclass that you're listening to right now. It is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. Today's topic: subjectivity matters more than factual information. Let me tell you that topic one more time, just in case it may have shocked you out of your stupor. Maybe you didn't think you heard what you actually heard. Subjectivity matters more than objective, factual information. Subjectivity matters more than facts. That's today's topic. Now, I told you back in masterclass number 1062 that reality is negotiable. And I'll tell you again today, reality is negotiable. You can choose what your reality is. So we all have different realities. So your version of reality, what you say is reality, another person does not have to agree. They don't have to see things the same way because their life is not the same as yours. They don't have the same experience as you. They don't think the way that you think. Therefore, reality is not one thing that everybody is locked into and subject to, even though you may think that. Each one of us thinks that, right? Each one of us thinks, well, this is the reality. And somebody else may say, well, listen, that's not the reality for me. They probably won't say that because they may not have the language to explain it the way that I've explained it. They probably don't. If they did, they would have this show. But everybody has their own way of seeing the world, and none of us is wrong for seeing the world the way that we see it, because we all have different backgrounds and different histories. And since we all have our own broadcasting platforms and bubbles in which we can live if we so choose, objective facts, if you really think about it, they just don't matter as much as they used to. This is the reality. See what I did there? This is the reality that we're in right now. Think about that. Every one of us has a unique reality that we live in. All right, that always existed. But here's what's new, is that each one of us has our own broadcasting platforms, plural, from which we can broadcast our personal reality. See, 20 years ago, we all had our own individual realities, just as we do now. But the thing was, I couldn't broadcast my reality to the whole world, and neither could you, and neither could the person across the street. Most of us did not have the resources to broadcast our realities out to everyone else in the world to influence their perception of life. Nowadays, all of us can broadcast our own perception of life to anyone else that we wish. You're not stuck with 5 TV channels anymore, or even 300 cable channels. You can get 1 billion channels. As many people want to put something out, or as many different messages any one person wants to put out, they have that many ways of getting their reality out to other people, which means objective facts, which most of us used to have to pay attention to and be subject to because we didn't have the power of choice as much as we do now. Now we have so much choice, we got too much of it. And therefore, objective facts, what's actually quote unquote real, what's actually quote unquote truth, or quote unquote hashtag fact, they don't matter anymore. Not as much as they used to, simply because everybody has access to share whatever they want to share and say whatever they want to say. And because we can also ignore objective fact, we will only see what we choose to look at. I can choose to look at this area, that area. I can choose to look at A, B, and C, and you can say, well, I don't care about A, B, and C, or not even become aware of A, B, and C, because all your attention, all your focus is going towards D, E, and F. So what that means is, what you choose to look at, the parts that you choose to pay attention to, those become your facts. That becomes your objectivity. That becomes your reality. So next time you're talking to a person and they disagree with you, or they just don't see things the way that you see them, and you think you're being completely objective, completely reasonable, completely factual, and you are pretty sure you have all the right information, and that person just won't accept it, what you're going to get in today's class, you'll understand why that is. It may be because they're just a jerk and they're just being perverse and they just want to disagree with you just because. And there are people out there who do that. Maybe you're one of them. But it also may be because they've never been exposed to the information that you've been exposed to. They haven't been exposed to the experiences that you've been exposed to. And everyone has the right to feel how they feel, even if how they feel is completely, quote, wrong, close quote, and completely stupid, according to you. I already told you in masterclass number 1378 that racism is legal. And there are several other truths that you need to understand about life, that just because you disagree with it doesn't mean everybody else has to disagree with it, and it doesn't make them wrong, it doesn't make you right. So while facts are not exactly irrelevant, a human being, if you were falling to the ground, the force of gravity would still pull you down towards the surface of the earth at 9.8 meters per second. Those facts are not irrelevant. You must still learn to navigate the subjective judgment that other people will inevitably bring with them into any interaction. And let me let you know something in case you didn't think about it. I'm bringing some subjective judgment into these interactions that we have here every single day. It's your job to, first of all, parse through what I'm saying and pick out the parts that are subjective. Now, I just happen to be a person of a certain level of skill where I can tell you when I'm being subjective and I can tell you when I'm being objective. I'll tell you when I'm throwing my opinion in. I'll just let you know. I won't try to mix my opinion in with facts and try to make you believe that it's a fact. I'll tell you when I'm giving you my opinion. I've been very open about that, and I will continue to be. I'm going to try, but what I do, my angle here, because everybody has an angle, is, I think we're going to talk about, I think that's in my notes here today, is to help you understand that just because you see something very clearly and you think another person may be just a complete fucking idiot because they're just not getting it. Again, they may be an idiot and they may just be trying to piss you off for whatever reason, because we know that people are people. And listen, you're not excluded from this. It may just mean that they haven't seen what you've seen. They just have a completely different subjective experience of life than what you have. That is completely, first of all, it's factual that no two people had the exact same life. Even if you're identical twins raised in the same house wearing the same clothes. It's the world that we live in now, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody brings their own subjectivity in any interaction, and they can choose. Here's the other crazy thing. It's not even crazy, but the thing is that we can all choose to continue to, what's the word that I'm looking for, is to indoctrinate ourselves with the same subjective judgments over and over and over again. For example, there are some people who watch Fox News and they follow certain Facebook pages that all confirm what they already believe about the news, about climate change, about politics, about this type of person, about this individual out here. Can we agree that there's some people who only follow stuff that confirms what they already believe? Therefore, the more they listen to that stuff and watch that stuff and read that stuff, what happens? They develop a deeper and deeper belief in the stuff that they've been taking in, even if it's not true. As Napoleon Hill said way back, Napoleon Hill's the author of Think and Grow Rich and also one of my favorite books on personal development called The Law of Success. He said, if you tell yourself anything often enough, even if it's a lie, you will eventually come to believe it. And there are people out there who are taking in information that you consider to be a lie, you consider to be untrue, but they keep taking it in. And every day they're being indoctrinated with more and more that confirms what they already believe. So eventually that quote lie, close quote, to you becomes their truth. And they're not wrong at it, because looking at their life, if they had to lay out a case, they could show you 200 pieces of experience that shows them why what they think is true, but you think is a lie. And you can show them 200 pieces of experience why you think it's completely wrong. Who's right and who's wrong in between the two of you? You both have equal amounts of proof and equal amounts of experience. Nobody's right or wrong. All right, you both are being completely subjective. But the problem that we run into in life today is that you would accuse them of being an idiot and lying and not seeing the facts, and they would accuse you of the same. I'm here to let both of you know that you're both idiots, because neither of you is right. All right, both of you have your own subjective opinion of life, and the subjectivity that we all bring to life matters a lot more than the quote facts that everybody thinks they have. Everybody thinks they have facts, right? If you're arguing over it, it's not a fact. Okay? And if you can't prove it, it ain't a fact. Now that we got that out the way, let's get into our points. Today's topic, once again, is subjectivity matters more than facts. Number one, objectivity is on life support. As I already kind of pointed out here, objectivity is on life support. All right, everyone here knows what being objective means. Objectivity means looking at things from an unbiased point of view, seeing things exactly as they are, not painted by opinion, not painted by your own experiences, none of that. Just being completely objective, seeing things completely emotionally, dispassionately is on life support. Now, it's still a possibility for some people. Some people are capable of doing it. I think I can put myself in that category. And there's some people who are capable of doing it on a more consistent basis. Most people don't do this at all, because most people are caught up in their own worlds, because we're all narcissists and we're all focused on ourselves. The reason why objectivity is on life support, though, is not really because of all of us individually. It's because objectivity doesn't pay anymore. Here's what I mean. We have always had opinions. Everyone who's listening to this, you always had opinions. And tomorrow you will have more opinions. And there will always be people who oppose each other. That's always existed and always will. That's not new. What we used to have, though, were entities out there in the world, media entities whose very existence was all about being objective and sharing the facts from which each of us could decide what we thought on an independent basis. Usually we called these entities the news. Newspapers, news TV networks. There were plenty of ones who were objective. They might lean a little bit in one direction or another, but for the most part, they were generally objective. They would tell us what happened, and then we could look at what happened, and then we could come to our own conclusions, or at least much more than we come to our own conclusions now. We got to think independently what we thought of the facts, and then decide what we thought, if we thought anything at all. Those entities' very existence was based on objectivity, sharing the facts, and as independently as we could muster, we had the human will to do what we wanted to do. Again, being human, we could never be completely 1000% objective. Nobody is, not even a judge in court. Those entities, they were called the media, right? We knew about the media. What's changed is the media has expanded to be, instead of NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, and a Fox and a few others. Used to be enough that you could count them, right? You can name all the entities that told us what was going on. Now, how many entities are there telling us what's going on? If you want to know the answer to that, all you got to do is go to Wikipedia and write in how many people live on the planet. All right, whatever number they give you, all right, that's how many different news entities we have now. Because every one of us is a news entity. Every one of us can tell the world whatever we want to tell the world. It doesn't have to be accurate. Doesn't have to be based in any research. It does not have to be factual. It doesn't have to be truthful. It can just be what we want to share. The media has expanded to be every human being with a data connection. Humans who are not trained to be and do not care about being objective are part of the media now. People like me and people like you. You may not have been trained to be objective. You don't care about being objective. You just want to make sure other people think the same way that you think, that people believe what you believe, see what you see, even if they've never seen it, never thought it, never believed it. You want them to, so you can ram it down their throats if you want to. If you want to put enough of your resources into doing that, you can absolutely do it. I mean, think back to the most recent presidential election. We know that there have been a lot of accusations that are still alive to this day of people saying, well, some people decided that they were going to take these not truths and ram them down people's throats. All they had to do was spend enough money and get enough, data bots to push it on people, and it worked. Or allegedly, this is what some people's truth is, that it worked, and some people's truth is that never happened at all. You get to draw your own conclusions. We'll never know the actual facts, will we? Probably not. Probably not in our lifetime, we won't. Maybe your grandkids will find out. And here's the thing. The traditional media learned something. In the process of all of us, me and you, becoming our own news entities, the traditional media, NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, all the rest, here's what they learned. Because they're really smart people. All right? You may think they're dumb. All right? If you lean hard to one side or another politically, you probably think one of those or a couple of those entities I just named are complete idiots for sharing the things that they think. But let me tell you something. They're very smart. They're all smart, all of them. Even the ones you think are wrong, they're smart. They learned that if they skew the facts, whatever they know to be the facts, if they skew those facts to influence opinion, that it will draw more attention. And when you draw people's attention in the media world, that comes with money. And that makes them more money than just sharing the bland, boring facts. And the bottom line in the business world, we all know what business is, because we talked about it many times here on the show. Business is the exchange of resources between entities. If you ever want to know why a business is doing something that seems inexplicable, it seems to not make sense, it seems to be nonsensical, you're like, why are they doing this? Why would the business, this big company or this successful business or these people who are really smart, why are they doing this thing that I don't quite understand? Here's what you got to do. 3-word phrase. Follow the money. You want to know why news entities have stopped being so objective and stopped sharing the facts and started skewing their coverage and skewing the way that they share things to get you to try to influence you to lean one direction or another, or to feel a certain way about a certain person or a certain group or a certain piece of news? You wonder why they're doing that? It's because it makes them more money to do that. It makes them more money to sensationalize and to get you excited going one direction or another. Not excited just period, but excited going one direction or another. Now, news has always been sensation. They've always sensationalized things, right? That's what the news does. As they used to say back in the days of newspapers thriving, if it bleeds, it leads. Meaning anything that gets people emotional, gets people fearful, gets people reacting, gets people taking action. Those are the things we're going to put as the headline in the newspaper, or is going to be the opening story on the 6 o'clock news. That existed before we had all this new media. What's different now, though, instead of just telling you something that could make you fearful or excited, they're not only going to tell you about it, they're going to also paint it in a certain way to get you thinking a certain way about it. They're going to tell you how to think about it. They used to just tell you what it was. Now they're telling you what to think. Now they're telling you how to respond. And now they're planting that in your mind. Now, you may think you are completely objective, but you're absolutely not. Neither am I. Once one of them did it, here's how it became a common thing now. Because one of these media entities realized, all right, if we just do this, it'll get us more attention. More people will watch our show than watch all the other shows. They'll read our magazine and our newspapers and click on our blog posts and follow us on social media more. One entity did it and it started working. And what did all the other entities do? What did we talk about in the episode on building your own lane, not competing with other people? They saw what the one who was winning, they saw what they were doing. They said, oh, they're winning and that's what they're doing? Okay, we're going to start doing it. Because now we gotta do that thing. We gotta adjust to what's working. That's working. They're making the money. They're getting all the clicks. They're getting all the fans and the followers and the TV viewers. We're gonna start doing the exact thing that they're doing. Now it's not novel anymore. Now everybody's doing it. Now, and it trickled down to everybody. Now you got podcasters doing it. You got Twitter people doing it. You got Instagrammers doing it. You got Facebook users doing it. Everybody's doing it because they saw that it worked. And human beings, we're social creatures. Monkey see, monkey do. We are followers. We see what's working. We see what's getting the attention, and we go do the exact same thing. Now, we all know where the opportunity is at, right? You've been listening to the show before, you know that. Now, let me give you an opinion. You see what I did there? I'm going to tell you I'm giving you an opinion. I feel that the right side, politically, whatever you consider to be the right, the conservative side, I feel like they did this steadily over about a 10-year period during the Obama era, when Barack Obama was president. And the changing world with social media and such was going on. So around 2008 through 2018, let's say, through that time period, or the 8 years that Obama was in office, 08 to 16, during that period, the conservative side of things, obviously, were not fans of Obama. They wanted Obama out of there. They couldn't do anything but try to win the 2 elections, which they didn't win. Over a 10-year period, they steadily started leaning more and more and more towards their direction, steadily started painting their news coverage, painting the things that they said, painting the stories that they put out there a certain way against Obama and for whoever they were for, whatever it was they were trying to get put out there. And this is a whole other conversation I don't pay attention to politics closely enough to talk into this deeply, but that led to a lot of unrest in the right side of things politically, where you had little factions coming out. You had the Tea Party. Remember, the Tea Party was out for a while. And then you had these candidates who you knew had no chance there's no way they were actually going to beat Obama in a campaign. And then you had, obviously, the emergence of Donald Trump, who was not necessarily on the right. I don't think he's really the right. There were a lot of people on his side, quote unquote, his side, who didn't even agree with him. It was just a lot of unrest. There was a lot of unruliness going on. And through that unruliness, through that chaos, he was able to capitalize and actually win the presidency. It was a whole other conversation. And there are about 50 books that have been written since 2016 on this exact thing that I just explained to you. So if you really want to know more about it, go read those books, because those people have researched it and talked about it and paid more attention to it than I have. But go read them if you really want to know more. But as I said, I'm still in the middle of my opinion right here. Over a 10-year or so period, the right side of things did this. And during that period, they were leaning more and more against Obama's side, against the left. Obama was left. And during that period, if you think about that timeline, 2008 through 2016 was kind of like the early days of social media. I mean, it doesn't seem like so early now. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. But in the long run, depending on how long social media is around, that's going to be looked at as the early days. That's the infancy. We're still in the infancy of social media, I think. I may be completely wrong on that. But we're still in the infancy of social media. Social media is not even in puberty yet. It's not even a teenager yet. Social media started, I would say, around 2008-ish. That's when Twitter came out. We already had Facebook. Instagram was later. What are other ones? And then all these other platforms that came after that. We didn't really have social media yet. So it's all been emerging, and everybody's been slowly adapting to it. And now we've gotten to where we gotten to. It wasn't out of control, though. CNN, not CNN, but Fox News or whatever other conservative sites or media entities, they were doing what they were doing, and we could see what they were doing, but it wasn't out of control. It was like, all right, yeah, we know what you're doing, we see what you're saying, but it wasn't out of control. Nobody was in a rage over it. Then the 2016 election happened, and when it started to look like Donald Trump might win, here's what happened. And I'm still in the midst of my opinion here. I'm telling you what happened, but I'm also giving you my opinion. The left side of things, because any of you who is, again, you're into politics like this, don't think that if you're on the left side, I'm letting you off the hook here, because I'm absolutely not. Because here's what happened in 2016. When it looked like Donald Trump was about to win, the left went on the offensive. And you know what they started doing? They said, well, what did the right do that was working? All right, they kept putting out this kind of propaganda-ish material against Obama. And it wasn't necessarily false, but it damn sure wasn't necessarily true. And they said, all right, well, what can we do? Let's do the same thing with Trump. And they started putting out more stuff. I remember leading up to and what happened here is the left, they pretty much jumped out the window. And they did the exact thing. They jumped out the window. And the reason why I call it jumping out the window, what the left did, because theirs came so suddenly. Theirs wasn't a steady progression over time. The right, they steadily progressed to more and more the propaganda-ish material. The left, they just jumped out the window. They did it in it was like one day. It was like 0 to 100, like Drake says, immediately. Because it looked like Trump was going to win. They said, we can't let that happen. We got to do our thing like ASAP. We can't wait. We can't steadily build up over an 8-year presidential term. We got to do something like today, or else this guy might win. Now, obviously, it didn't work because Trump won anyway. They jumped out the window, did the same thing, and they did it much harder and much faster. Now there's no turning back, because now both sides have done it. 2 wrongs don't make it right, but you understand this is what happened. Let me give you another opinion. Within the right is more subjective than the left. The right side, I believe, has been more subjective than the left side. Usually the side that's winning is less emotional and less angry. That's usually how it goes in life. So since Trump, who's somewhat right, since he's winning, or at least he is as of today's recording, he's the president as of today, the anti-Trump side gets more and more angry and more emotional. Thus, they go further to try to swing the tide. So the left side becomes more, actually, it shouldn't say the right side is more subjective. It's to say the left side is more subjective, rather. I think I said that to you backwards. The left side is going more off their opinions, off their emotions, off their anger, off their trying to change your mind about things. I remember leading up to that election in 2016, some of the stuff that I saw on social media, like, what the hell are y'all posting? I saw people posting things that was like, it was harking back to, obviously there was a period when a lot of people were saying, well, Trump's going to be Hitler. And anybody who supports Trump, you're like, asking for the next regime of Hitler, what he did out there in Germany in the Nazi period, and all these things that they were saying Trump was going to do, and anybody who supported him, you're supporting these things. So that gives us free reign to attack you, physically attack you, financially attack you, emotionally attack you. What's the other ways? Verbally attack you in writing. It opened the door for a lot of things, or at least it seemingly was that way. And it really was that way for a short period of time. It was looking kind of crazy. People were saying it's going to be the second Holocaust. So if you're not a white American male, things are just going to be terrible for you. If you're a person of color, if you're an immigrant, if you are a LGBTQ community, all of these groups, everything's just going to be terrible for you. You might not even survive the next 4 years. They're going to wipe all of us off the face of America, at least over the next 4 years. That's the kind of propaganda that was coming out leading up to the election. I remember seeing this stuff from people who don't usually talk politics. I was seeing this stuff. I was like, what the hell is going on? And that's what I'm talking about here today. And what does all this mean? All right, now I'm out of my opinion. What does all this mean? What does it have to do with subjectivity and objectivity? Now that I've said all of that stuff to you, that brings us to point number 2. Today's topic is subjectivity matters more than facts. Here's what happened. Here's what I'm going to tell you now. After all that stuff that I told you to happen. Mass media, which now includes you and me, we're all part of mass media. It covers a lot of what we see, know about, talk about, and think. Now, again, every human being, if you ask them, they believe that they make their decisions independently, that we're completely objective, that we're completely rational. We make all our choices just looking in our own minds, a blank slate of everything that we come across in life, and we decide completely on our own. That is 100% bullshit. None of us do that. None of us decides completely on our own what we're going to do. If any of you ever read anything or taken a class or done it on your own, any type of copywriting is all about persuading people. the headlines. Any of you read articles online when somebody writes a blog post or an email, or even TV shows, the titles of the shows or the thumbnails that people use in their videos, and all of these things, all of those are engineered. People who know what they're doing, they engineer those to get you to do a certain thing. There are certain ways. If you go to any of my websites and you click on a button or you buy a product or service, there's a certain way that I wrote the headlines, a certain way that I wrote the copy, a certain way that I write. When you click on a button that says buy now or give me the free thing, there's a certain way that we put the text and we word things to move you to action. That's not just something you randomly put on there and hope that it works. Now, amateurs hope that it works, but professionals, there's a science behind all of that stuff. And I'm telling you all that to tell you this. The mass media, NBC, CBS, NBC, Fox, MSNBC, these companies have a lot of money. Okay, and the reason that they have a lot of money, they've been around for a long time, and because they know what the hell they're doing. They have engineers, scientists, people whose very job is to spend the entire day, a 40-hour work week, thinking about how do we influence more people to do what we want them to do. That's their whole job. There's somebody whose very job right now, while you're listening to this right now, their job is figuring out how to persuade you to do what their company tells them they want to make you do. Okay, you can't win. All right, you can't beat them. And since none of us is any more incentivized to be objective and emotionless, as I already explained, everybody has an angle, because emotion draws people's attention. Emotion gets people to move. Emotion gets people to react, respond, and these days getting engagement to your material, even if they're not actually buying anything or clicking on an ad, just getting engagement is worth something. You notice how a lot of people who are news reporters, damn, everybody who's a news reporter has a social media account, and every time they put out a new article, they're posting the links, and people try to get credit, make sure they're getting their right credit for being the first one to break a news story and stuff like that. And I always wonder, why the hell who cares who broke the news story first? All right, some basketball player got traded, and it seems like the media guys are all jostling to be the first one who reported the news. I always thought to myself, so what? Who cares who reported the news? The guy got traded, no matter, I don't care who told me, I just want to know that it happened. But why does it matter to them? Because that's how they get measured. When they come up for their performance reviews or their contracts are up and they're looking for an extension, or they're looking to get more money, or they might get fired, or they're going to quit and go to another company and try to sell themselves to a different company, what do they say? Well, look at my resume. That's part of their resume, being the first one to break the news. Or look how many followers I have. Or look how many clicks I get every time I post a link to my new article. All of those things play a part in their business. And as I already told you, follow the money. You want to know why people are doing things that seemingly don't matter or seemingly don't make any sense? If they're involved with any type of big business, always follow the money. Everything is based on money in the business world. That's basically what business is, right? It's the exchange of money. No one is incentivized to be objective and emotionless anymore. Every single one of us has an angle. And the further you go with that angle, the more beneficial it becomes. This is just what it is. Think of some person on TV, or I guess in the media, we don't even have to say TV, but in the media, who you think goes a little bit too far, a little bit too sensational. You really don't like them, or you really do like them. Usually is because of their angle. All right, the further they go with that angle, the more you are interested in them, or the more you hate them, or the more you keep talking bad about them. I mean, you look at the president. Some of you love him, some of you hate him. But the thing is, the further he goes with his angles, the more people can't stop talking about the guy. I talked about him in 12 episode. Let me make sure I got that right. I believe it's episode 1245. 1232. What you could, should, and will learn from President Donald Trump. That's Masterclass 1232. What you could, should, and will learn from President Donald Trump. That is not about his political leanings or anything he's done policy-wise, because shit, I don't know what anything he's done policy-wise. What I do know, though, is that nobody has no opinion of the guy. Everybody has some way that they feel. Everybody has something that they could possibly say about him. And that, these days, is what wins. And when I say winning, I don't necessarily mean winning an election or being better than anybody subjectively, or winning a vote or anything like that. What I mean by winning is getting people to pay attention to you. We are in the attention economy. If you can get people's attention and hold people's attention, that's a victory. If somebody says something nasty about you, that's attention. They got to be paying attention to you to talk about you. And if someone says something nasty about you publicly, what are they doing? They're talking about you. So the person who reads it, now they're thinking about you. Now they're going to go read what that person said, but it's all about you. All of that is a vote for you. If you go on YouTube and leave a negative comment trashing somebody's videos, that's a vote for that video. Y'all know how YouTube's algorithm works? You leave a comment on a video, that's engagement. That's a high level of engagement. The more the video you watch, you can find more things to trash the person about, the more votes you're giving that person, even though you claim you hate the content. The same thing with Trump. I mean, if Trump was a YouTube video, he had the highest level of engagement of any video in history. Because people can't stop watching it and people can't stop talking about him. People can't stop leaving comments. People can't stop sharing it and telling their friends how bad it is. That would be the most engaged video that ever came out in the history of the internet. You understand what I'm saying? And every one of us has an angle. All right, my angle, at least today, is that I'm not on either side of this. I think you understand that. And I will expose what everybody else is doing, at least the parts that I understand, the parts that are relevant to the message that I want to get across here. I'm here to help you understand what you're seeing and how it's aiming to influence you. Actually, it's not aiming to influence you. It is influencing you in some way. It may influence you to say, I hate all of them. It may influence you to say, fuck Trump. It may influence you to say, I love Trump. Or it may influence you to say, yeah, I don't even know what's going on because there's too many people yelling. But they are influencing you in some way, shape, or form. Everybody has an angle. You have an angle. You may not know what it is, but you have an angle. You would be well advised to decipher what your angle is with every person you come in contact with and what that person's angle is, because everybody has a reason for doing what they do. No sane human being does something for nothing. And if you're talking about anybody who's involved in business and money is being exchanged, I guarantee you, if you follow the money, there's that is where you will find some of the influence or the impetus behind the actions that people are taking, especially when you don't understand it. Point number 3. Today's topic is subjectivity matters more than facts. Why does subjectivity matter more than facts? I mean, I think I've given you a pretty good argument so far as to why, but here's another reason why, is because we can, as stated in the introduction here today, we can insulate ourselves from any information that we don't want to hear. If you don't want to hear anything about a particular subject or a particular person, or you want to hear everything positive about somebody or everything negative about someone or something or some idea or any combination, you can choose to do that and be completely insulated from anything that goes against it. And your life will seem completely normal. We choose our news channels. We choose who we follow on social media. A person can live their whole life seeing only one interpretation of things and never be confronted with anything else. They will see only one interpretation. It could be an interpretation that you disagree with. It could be an interpretation that you have never heard of, but that's all they've ever heard of. And one day you and this person will meet. And their subjective view of life will matter to them a whole lot more than any of your boring ass factual information. Let me say that one more time, because this has probably already happened to you. So if you're paying attention, you'll notice it. You'll be more cognizant when it happens. There are people in life, and you may be one of them. Again, I want to make sure we're not letting ourselves off the hook for anything we talk about here ever on the show. There are people in life who will spend their entire lives only seeing one side of things, only one interpretation of things, some aspect of life, or multiple aspects maybe, and they will never be confronted with anything that conflicts with the way that they see things. If any of you have read anything about, if any of you have read Napoleon Hill's book, Outwitting the Devil, he talked about this when it came to religion, that if you were to take a child rearing, and expose them only to a certain type of religion and a certain way of seeing that religion above every other religion out there for up to a certain point in their development, they will always believe that for the rest of their lives, no matter what information they come across. And there are other people who do it when they get older. There are people who do it at age 23. There are people who do it at age 40. There are people who do it at age 57. Not necessarily with religion or politics. It could be anything in life. There are people who will only be exposed to one interpretation of things, or maybe they'll be exposed to multiple, but they'll choose one and choose to only be exposed to that interpretation of things. Never be confronted with anything else, because they can choose to tune all that stuff out. And one day you and this person will meet. And when you and this person meet, if you two don't see things the exact same way, understand that their subjective view of life will matter to them a whole lot more than any of your boring facts. They're not trying to hear any of your facts, because their facts are based on their life, what they've seen, their subjective experience of the world, not your factual, I know this to be true, I'm right and you're wrong. Nobody wants to hear that shit, especially when they have a subjective view of the world that is their own, that they've been living with for 30 years and they just met you 30 minutes ago. You kidding me? Point number 4. And this goes back to the point of what I told you before, is stop arguing with people. When I told you that racism is legal and other truths that you need to accept about life, Masterclass 1378, stop arguing with people. You're not going to argue anyone out of what they think and how they feel, especially if they've been thinking it their entire lives and you just came along 10 seconds ago on an Instagram story. Point number 4. Today's topic is why subjectivity matters more than facts. So what do you do with all this information? Everything that I've told you here today, all my subjective sharing that I've given you here today. What do you do with this? What's the step that you can take? What's the call to action? First of all, let me tell you what not to do. All right, because this will save you a whole lot of time and energy if you just stop doing the thing that you've been doing wrong, rather than trying to pick up something brand new and great to do. Just stop doing the wrong things. Here's what you don't do. Okay? Do not confront people by telling them that their subjective reality is wrong. This is the worst thing you can do, because all this is going to do is lead to conflict or a person tuning you out and never listening to you again, and it's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. Damn sure ain't going to help them. Do not confront people by telling them that the way that they see the world, the way they see life, and the way that they've been living and the way that they've been thinking is wrong. All right, that ain't going to work. All right, if someone came up to you and told you the way that you see the world is wrong, your beliefs are wrong, what would you say? How would you respond to that person? Would you talk to them again? Would you take their call? Would you follow them back on Twitter? This will get you absolutely nowhere. Maybe you've already tried it. I'm pretty sure some of you have, and it didn't work, did it? Let someone express to you, if you're open-minded enough, let someone express to you why their reality is what it is. Learn to do this by asking questions. Accept their reality, then ask questions. Don't ask questions with the goal of changing their mind, because you can't change another person's mind. Now, it's impossible to change somebody's mind. You can only hope to open someone's mind, and then they can change it on their own. If you think you're going to change another person's mind, let me save you some time and effort and tell you that you're going to fail, and you should probably put your time into doing something else. You can open another person's mind. And the way that you open another person's mind is, first of all, they have to feel comfortable enough to open their mind. The way someone feels comfortable is when they know that they've been accepted. And you can't accept the person by telling them that they're wrong. You can't accept the person by announcing that whatever they believe just must be dumb, or they obviously don't know anything, or your 3-year-old son is smarter than them. All right, none of those is going to help open anybody's mind. You want to open somebody's mind, you must have them feel that they are accepted by you for who they are and how they feel. Even if you think they're a complete fucking idiot, they have to feel accepted in order to open their minds. And when their mind is open, then there's a possibility that they could change it. But you are not the one who's going to change it. They have to change it on their own. All you can do, the best you can possibly do, is open someone up. And not everybody is willing to be opened. So you got to choose your battles. Let's recap today's class, today's topic. Subjectivity matters more than facts. I told you in masterclass number 1062 that reality is negotiable. Now we know that we all have our own separate realities. My reality and your reality are completely different. I can change mine at any time. You can change yours at any time. And both of us are right to have these 4 different realities, right? My old one and my new one, your old one and your new one. And then multiply that by all the people on the planet. And as we all have our own broadcasting platforms and bubbles in which we can live, objective facts don't matter as much as they used to, because we can ignore them. We can ignore whatever information we don't want to hear. And whatever we choose to hear becomes our facts. So facts are not completely irrelevant. I mean, gravity still exists. You must learn to navigate the subjective judgments that others will bring with them to any interaction. If you don't have the ability to do that, you're going to have a hard time getting along with people. Point number 1, objectivity is on life support. The reason why is because it doesn't pay to be objective anymore. It pays to be sensational, and the further you lean in one direction or another, the more attention you will get. Even if it's negative attention can work. All right, it's produced outcomes for several people. Some people who you may not like, maybe some people you love, but negative attention is still attention, and attention is worth money. If you want to know why businesses are doing things that don't seem to make sense, all you got to do is follow the money, because the media has expanded to every human being who has access to a data connection, people like you, and traditional media learns. Skewing the facts to influence opinion draws more attention and money than just sharing boring facts. Once one of them did it, everybody else followed, because us humans, we're sheep, we're followers. My opinion is the right did this steadily over a 10-year period, then the left jumped on and did the same thing over a 10-week period, and they jumped out the window and they just did it so quickly that people were like kind of blindsided by it, but a lot of people were happy with it, because that's exactly what they wanted to happen, because they were trying to fight the opposition. They felt like they had a right to do that. Now, your opinion on that is whatever you choose it to be. What I want you to understand is that usually when someone is winning, they are less apt to turn emotional, they're less apt to be angry, they're less apt to maybe sensationalize as hard, because they're already winning. The side that's losing, they're going to do those things because they need to do something to turn the tide. Trump, for right now, he's winning as of today's recording. So the anti-Trump side is a little bit more angry, more emotional, thus willing to go further to try to swing the tide and share subjective things that may not necessarily be true. Again, this is all my opinion. But what does all this mean? What does this have to do with subjectivity and objectivity? Point number 2, mass media, which now includes you and me, covers a lot of what we see, know about, talk about, and think. So you think that all your opinions are completely objective and independent. That's bullshit. No, they're not. We are far from independent and objective. The media colors a lot of our opinions. And since none of us is incentivized to be objective and emotionless anymore, we all have an angle. And the further you go with your angle, the more beneficial it can be. My angle today is that I'm not on either side. I hope you can see that. Now I'll expose what everybody else is doing as far as I can see it and as far as it's relevant to the topic. But understand that every human being has an angle. All right, everyone is trying to influence you in some way, shape, or form. Your job is to understand what other people's angles are. If you don't know what other people's angles are, then the angle may be to just use you as the fool. As the saying goes, if you're at a poker table for 30 minutes and you don't know who the sucker is probably you. Point number 3. Why does subjectivity matter more than facts? Because we can now insulate ourselves from any information we don't want to hear. We choose our news. We choose who to follow. We can live our whole lives seeing only one interpretation of life and never be confronted with anything that conflicts with that. And one day you're going to meet that person and their subjective view will matter to them more than your objective facts, even if you think you're completely right. All right, what they subjectively know matters more than what you objectively know, because their life is their life and they don't have to agree with your facts if they don't want to. And they can completely tune out your facts for the rest of life if they so choose. 2 taps of a button. Point number 4. What do you do with all this? First, let me tell you what not to do. Do not confront people by telling them that their subjective reality is wrong. All right, you've probably done that before, and I guarantee you, I'm 100% sure it didn't work. This is going to get you nowhere. Maybe you tried it before. I'm sure you have. Let somebody else express to you why their reality is what their reality is. Accept them and their reality. And at that point, you can ask questions and you can learn a little bit more. Not with the goal of changing someone's mind, because that is impossible. So if you ever try to change someone's mind, I can 100% guarantee that you failed at that too. And I don't even know you. You cannot change another person's mind. You can only hope to open their minds. And then they change it on their own. All right, don't try to do any more than that. All right, do less. Work on your game. Dre all day.